Welcome to Otherworld. Stories of the strange and supernatural. Today, we offer part 4 of Abaddon. Zane Cruikshank jerked awake out of the nightmare to see Dr. Bloom standing at the foot of his bed. "How we doing today, Zane?" asked the doctor.
Well, my ears are still ringing, and I can hear the whispers, but not loud enough to make out what they're saying. I know it sounds stupid, but I thought I saw a face looking at me in the bathroom mirror during the night. The same face I saw in the undertow.
Dr. Bloom nodded. "Well, as we determined last night, the tests show no brain damage or cognitive impairment. So my conclusion is that your symptoms are an anxiety response."
What you saying? I'm going crazy?
Not at all. This isn't like 50 years ago when doctors would say it's all in your head and it was psychosomatic. Nowadays, we know that prolonged stress triggers your fight or flight mechanism and has physical effects that can actually alter your perception and memory. So I'm giving you some medication to take care of that.
You're not gonna turn me into a zombie, are you?
Oh, I promise you'll be sharp as ever. My best guess is that if we lower the stress hormones in your system, the symptoms will blow over and it'll be smooth sailing from here on in. And we'll send these hallucinations back to Davy Jones' locker, where they belong. Zane was skeptical, but he was also exhausted and willing to try just about anything that would get him a decent night's sleep. On his way out, he stopped to get the prescription filled at the hospital pharmacy. While he was waiting for the medication, he checked his emails and saw that there was a message from his lawyer marked urgent. He sighed and opened it. He was not surprised to discover that it was regarding Congressman Penfold's efforts to obtain his financial records. The sound of wheels creaking behind him caught Zane's attention. In his peripheral vision, he saw a woman pushing a boy in a wheelchair while simultaneously trying to maneuver an intravenous drip stand. The drip stand bumped his shoulder. Zane looked up, annoyed.
Sorry,
said the woman pushing the boy in the intravenous drip. Then a look of surprise, followed by recognition, passed over her face.
Are you Zane Cruikshank? Yes, that's me,
he replied.
Well, I just want you to know that your little escapade with jacking up the price of Retronol has put us in the poorhouse. Our insurance doesn't cover it, and we can't afford it anymore. I'm sorry,
said Zane.
I don't make the rules. Well, maybe not, but you set the prices, don't you?
Zane didn't answer.
Don't you?
She demanded, the words now a declaration rather than a question.
I've sold everything we own,
she continued.
And I don't know what we're gonna do now. How's that order coming?
Zane called to the pharmacist.
Just a couple of minutes, Mr. Cruikshank,
came the reply. Zane wanted to get away from the woman as quickly as possible. He could see that her rage was about to boil over, and it was unpleasant to be subjected to her public indignation. But the worst part was having to see the boy in the wheelchair. Zane couldn't stand the sight of him. He was sickly pale, except for dark rings around his sunken eyes. It gave him the horrifying look of a reanimated cadaver. Cruikshank felt utter revulsion. He wished the woman and the boy would just move on. But instead, the woman grabbed Zane's arm and leaned in so close that he could feel the heat of her breath in his ear. She whispered so that the boy couldn't hear. But it was a whisper with the intensity of a volcano that was about to erupt.
You're killing my son. You're killing him with your greed. Without the medication, he'll be dead in a month. Does that make you happy?
Zane pulled away from her and strode up to the pharmacy window.
Just give me the prescription back. I'll have it filled somewhere else.
The druggist held the slip of paper out to Zane, who snatched it back, then made for the rotunda and the main entrance beyond it. The indignant woman left her son behind and tailed Zane for a few paces.
Zane Cruikshank, you're a despicable excuse for a human being,
she cried.
Do you hear me? You're a disgrace. I hope you rot in hell.
By now, people in the hallways and lobby were turning and staring, attracted by the commotion. Worse, many of them recognized Zane's name and face from seeing it in news articles. They looked at him disapprovingly. Some looked angry. Some smirked at his predicament. The scornful mother had now given up the chase, but Zane heard her shout his name one last time, like a venomous accusation echoing through the rotunda.
Zane Cruikshank!
Then she stopped shouting and began to sob so hard that she could no longer speak. Zane locked his gaze on the revolving door that led to the street and freedom. A well-dressed man holding a copy of the Wall Street Journal strode across the lobby on a trajectory that led him diagonally across Zane's path. The man seemed aloof from all the commotion. But just as they passed each other, the man looked up, saw the crying woman, then looked at Zane, and in a clear, matter-of-fact voice, said,
Asshole.
Zane was so rattled that he didn't answer. He just fled toward the exit. As he stepped into the enclosure, the revolving doors began to slow down. To his annoyance, he saw that an elderly man in a hospital gown, dragging an oxygen tank on wheels, had just entered the revolving door from the street. Responding to the elderly man's glacial pace, sensors slowed down the automatic door to a crawl. Zane feared that seeing his predicament, someone in the lobby might see their opportunity and pursue him. He looked over his shoulder to check, and was instead confronted by the hideous apparition he had seen while caught in the undertow. It was no less terrifying for its familiarity. It seemed to exist only as a reflection in the door glass. Zane felt a tightness in his chest and fought to catch his breath. The sunken black eyes of the bloodless face stared into his. It raised a bony hand at him accusingly. This time, however, Its decaying lips began to move as if it were trying to speak. We hope you have enjoyed part 4 of Abaddon. Watch for the next and final installment. And remember, if you find yourself in a place that seems familiar, yet strangely disquieting, you may have just become the next visitor to